Thank you all for joining us this morning. These are unprecedented times. COVID-19 is culturally strangling the arts sector in this country. The small and medium arts organisations in this state are at the mercy of a pandemic that is affecting the globe. New South Wales arts sector has been hit hard with cancellations and disruptions in the wake of COVID-19 crisis. It's been more than 2 months and it's ongoing. Within this time, First Peoples, artists and organisations have responded, and it's not a choice. This reflects the timeless function of our people with modifying their projects, and we have always found ways to get our works produced and out within the marketplace. It's a method that First Peoples in this country have endeavoured and undertaken for many, many years. Current financial estimate figures through the application I Lost My Gig Australia, ILMG, is an initiative through the Australian Festivals Association and the Australian Music Industry Network, AMIN. The current figures are 340 million. That's absolutely devastating. So how are First People artists and their organisations responding to this global pandemic here in the state of New South Wales and in the largest city in the continent? Yarning this morning, we have two respected and experienced First Nation peoples, Lily Shearer and Mark Ross. They will give an insight into what established First People artists have done and are doing in response to the pandemic, and how this webinar, there may be some aspects that we can take away that may inform the artists and art workers watching in Sydney and out within the nations that fall in what we call New South Wales. Create New South Wales acknowledges the Gadigal peoples as the first and incomparable custodians of the land, the unceded lands that Create New South Wales is built upon, and what is known as Sydney. To the elders that have become before us and to the elders that are with us today, both guiding voices that remind us that our ancestors are always watching as we generate our artistic works in the various mediums of music, visual arts, dance, literature, and the interdisciplinary practices that are the connective tissues to those disciplines. I'd like to acknowledge the beautiful nations that our guests are from and have cultural connections to, the Murruwarra Republic and Namba Nation, and down south, where Monk's from, and his people, the Jaaliowali people. I'm not sure if I've got that correct. And I'd like to acknowledge the First Peoples joining us this morning in the virtual world. That is the go-to meeting platform here today. Yama, Gamilaroi Yaga Murray, New South Wales, Colin Kinshala, Buliga, Mara Buliagu. My name's Colin Kinshala. I'm a Gamilaroi Murray from Northwest New South Wales. Good morning. My work as a interdisciplinary artist has stretched over 15 years. I've worked with First Peoples performance and community organisations in Sydney and on Gadigal lands and Sydney's west on Darug country, and on the lands of the Kulin Nations down in Melbourne. That's to name check a few. Throughout my career, I'm currently an Arts Funding and Development Officer in Partnerships and Policies at Create New South Wales. Just like to go through some housekeeping before we start. This webinar is being recorded right now. It will be available in an edited version through Create website. Please keep your mics to mute. You'll have an opportunity later on to join in and ask questions to the panelists after they've spoken. For a better viewing experience, I'm reminded to say that you can click the View Everyone tab at the top center of the screen and select View Active Cameras. And if you'd like to ask a question into the dialog box, that's in the right-hand corner. So, joining us this morning for this webinar is Lily Shearer and Mark Ross. Yama, Marabuliagu, Lily Shearer and Mark Ross. How are you both?
Good, brother, good.
Not from me.
Hey, good to see you both. Maraginda, thank you for making time for this webinar this morning. We're going through both speakers this morning, and as I was saying before, we're conducting a Q&A session at the end. And so, to get the ball rolling, Lily Shearer, we'll start with you. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Cole, and you? I'm not too dusty
well,
anyway. There's less pollution about.
That's it. That's something very interesting that's happening too with our environment. So Lily Shearer is a citizen of the Marawari Republic and the Ngamba Nations, which borderlands northwest New South Wales and southeast Queensland, with 30 plus years experience in First Peoples cultures, arts and community development, producing theatre and performance. Is co-founder of Muglin Performing Arts, First Peoples company based in Redfern. Lily Shearer's his vision was to put into practice the principle of ownership of First Peoples culture and artistic leadership, and is committed to empowering First People to grow the creative industries ecology. Also, Lily is a freelance performing artist, a cultural collaborator, consultant, educator, and member of the Artistic Directorate, which is Muglin Performing Arts. Lily's highlights were two really fantastic ones last year were through Create New South Wales was a mid-career / established fellowship, and also was a producer of Henrietta Baird's The Weekend, which was through Muglin Performing Arts, that was on at Carriage Works and part of Sydney Festival. So Lily, I'd like to start with this question that we met up last week and discussed before this webinar. And my question to you off the bat is, what cultural similarities do you have yourself as an artist, and what Muglin has, and are they both intertwined?
Thanks, Cole, and I'd like to acknowledge that I'm on Bedigal land here in Belmore, in between Canterbury and Bankstown, and I live on top of a funeral parlour, so I pay my respects to anybody who's downstairs waiting for their final journey to life, as well as my ancestors that walk with me every day. Thanks for inviting me to this panel, Create New South Wales and Colin. Muglin is a Yuin Bundjalung languages that means to play and fool about. This name is the legacy of lifetime work of Uncle Kevin Smith, who worked extensively across art forms, from stage to film to comedy to voiceover. He was an activist for human rights for our people in the art, for our people in the arts and in our communities. For those who don't know, Muglin Performing Arts is New South Wales' leading performing arts company and was formed on Gadigal country in Redfern in November 2007. As a collective, by a collective of First Peoples performance artists, educators and community arts workers. Biripi woman Dr. Lisa Marie Siren, myself and the recent co-artistic director, Bunaba man Frederick Copperwaite. We established the company at the request of the late Uncle Kevin Smith, who wished to bring performing arts back to the community of Redfern in honour of the founding members of the National Black Theatre. And Tracy Duncan was pivotal in that role in motivating us to do that. My practice is 39 years, as my daughter keeps reminding me this year for some reason, in cultural arts and community development for a self-determined future from our ways of knowing and doing. And my philosophy and our uniqueness as a company, as Muglin, is in our philosophy and approach to making work, in which we uphold interconnected First Peoples values.
Right.
The first one is relationships. Our approach is heavily based on building relationships through our strategic partnership model. We understand that sustainable partnerships require trust, time and patience with individual artists, communities, other arts organisations around the continent, or with First Peoples from other countries. Mm-hmm. We have a responsibility. We are in a leadership role and have responsibilities to create opportunities, give voice to those who have none, create culturally safe spaces and contribute to a legacy of intergenerational relationships around storytelling and knowledge sharing. We respect the diversity of First Peoples' experiences, languages, land, water, air, practices and law. Reciprocity. We create cultural arts exchange opportunities with community and artists locally, nationally and internationally. It's always about the collective benefit of all involved. Mm. And relevance. We engage in critical discourse from a First Peoples worldview, seeking community feedback on our work and seeking community engagement in all levels of creation. As you said, in co-founding Muglin Performing Arts, my vision was to put into practice the principle of ownership for First Peoples Australian communities by facilitating the handover of the final gathering ground project from Pact Youth Theatre to Muglin Performing Arts in 2010. An urban Aboriginal experience was a paper in 2009. The process outlined the protocols and engagements for community cultural development, and it was called Encounters, an urban Aboriginal experience.
Right.
The process provided leadership opportunities for local First Peoples, theatre practitioners and artists, and provided new opportunities for emerging local First Peoples. I've always put our peoples and communities at the forefront of my practice to enable the voices of our people and their stories and the leadership potential. I learned this at a very young age from my old people growing up in Brewarrina, with great leaders such as my first parents, my grandparents, Granny and Grandfather Shearer, who raised me while my parents were working. My parents carried on this work from my grandparents, advocating and implementing, for example, the aged and disability village for our people at home in Brewarrina. I was also strongly influenced by others, such as Bush Queen, our first Aboriginal actor and director from Brewarrina, my children's paternal great-grandfather from his book, The Two Worlds of Jimmy Barker, uncles who set up the Western Aboriginal Legal Service, Uncle Jackie Barker, Uncle Tombo Winters, Brother Kevo Williams, all gone now. I pay my respects to them. The land rights movement in Redfern in the 70s and 80s, going as a teenager to these land rights marches. We used to march from Redfern to Town Hall every Friday. That fire was really strong in the belly. So, those great speakers, Lyle and Jenny Munro and Gary Foley. And then, I went to the Aboriginal Islander Dance College in Glebe and, I had Uncle Jerry Bostock, Brian Siren, Bob Mazar and Aunties Justine Saunders and Kath Walker, as my teachers. I did my first performance reciting poetry at Plunkett Street School, Woolloomooloo, with Aunty Just and Aunty Kath. And of course, I can't go past Uncle Wes Mann, Uncle Greg Sims, his late wife Aunty Pat, and Aunty Edna Watson, who I met in the early 90s. After I got my land rights in Penrith, when I bought my own house. They've all been part of my journey on self-determination and sovereign rights for our people, especially in the performing arts, as we're all storytellers.
Very true, very true.
I feel the biggest difference, is between my practice and that of Muglan's, is I've had a learning of a lifetime of 50 plus years. And my umbilical cord has never been severed from my homelands. I always go back and forth and always give. I remember as a young mum going home and volunteering at my old school at St Patrick's Primary School in Brewarrina and teaching dance and telling stories to the children of the school I went to. And, Moores has only had 13 years. And this last 13 years, I've realised is the only time I've worked full-time with my peers, as I've always been around my old people, at home, as a young person, in Redfern, and as an adult living in Western Sydney, or Sydney's Greater West. I view this as my university degree. My old people are our living treasures and libraries. For example, I've been listening to Uncle Wes Mann's creation and dreaming stories for 29 years now, and although he tells the same stories, I learn something new every time, to this day. Muglan is also a collective of voices made up of individuals who have very different life journeys in getting to our place in time. How do we find our own aesthetic in the embedded psyches through training in Western institutions? It's not an easy practice of unlearning these processes, and I challenge that at every project, even my own ideologies and sociology beliefs, as we're not all the same people. We're all different. We're all different nations.
Yeah.
Not everyone has a smoking ceremony to acknowledge the land and ancestors. They might, for example, take the sand from the ocean and rub it on their bodies. But we are acknowledging the same beings, the land and our ancestors, spirit of place to guide us on our journey. Muglan achieves its visions and goals as a cultural arts institution by strategy and the majority of my practice is determined by spirit of place and people. So that's my grounding. That's, yeah. I mean, when I was little, Granny and Grandfather built me a little curtain on a wire on the veranda, and Granny gave me one of her old wooden washing baskets with some dresses and handbags and shoes, and you know, I used to do shows for them. I played Zytel in Fiddler on the Roof in primary school.
Yeah, right.
In high school, I played all the male roles because I went to an all-girls Catholic school, boarding school, not stolen or taken away or kidnapped. I cried to go to boarding school because I thought the Warren Essential School made you pregnant. I didn't know you needed a man and a woman back then. So, yeah, I cried to go to boarding school.
That is a wealth.
I got to play all the male roles. It was fun.
Well, that's it too, you know, like there is some, you know, there's just a wealth there. You just described a wealth of histories that combined and informed and given you a strength of character and a strength of purpose.
Oh, this one little story real quick. When Slim Dusty used to come to town, and we used to have the memorial hall, and all the families would go, you know, because it was in the memorial hall. There was no alcohol or anything like that. Nobody wanted that stuff when we were growing up. And watching those old aunties dancing, but shoving the corroboree in there too. And I used to just sit there like this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you know, watching poor old Aunty Bush Queen and Aunty Irene Coleman and all them shaking her leg. Oh mate, gee, they were deadly dancers. And we used to have claypan dances too. So we had on the claypan in between Brewarrina and Wilmaringal, so in between Neembar and Wurrawarri country, and we'd have claypan dances. It was fabulous. We had such a great time.
Lily?
And a picture theatre with no roof.
Well, that's the true theatre, isn't it? That's the true theatre. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sort of leads me into bringing us forward to now, and I wanted to ask you about one of the culturally produced enterprises that Muggleland Performing Arts has on its annual calendar, which is Biami's. Could you say that word again for me?
Biami's Nunu
Festival.
or Nunu.
Nonu Festival.
Yeah, Creators Fish Traps. And
I
I'm
believe-
told I got the syntax back at the front, but anyway. Because Biami didn't own anything.
Right. Language is forever evolving, you know. All of our languages are
I love
ongoing.
it. Love it.
Could you
And
tell
as you
me
can
about that? Because I went there a few years ago when I was with Margaret West, and went to there for the first time and to see that meeting place of my people with your people there, and it was quite profound. And could you tell me about how that festival got going through Muggleland, and how what's the feedback from community out there?
Okay, so you threw me off my questions now. Nah, only gammon. So for personal reasons, I had to go back home to Brewarrina in 2014. And my community knows me and, you know, has grown me up, because it takes a village to raise a child, and Brewarrina certainly raised me. And all the younger people were saying, oh, who are you? Where are you from? And I'd say, oh, I'm Lily Shearer. Oh, you related to Mrs. Shearer? And I said, yeah, that's my mum. And I said, oh, you're the one that taught our parents or grandparents how to dance at school or in the park and that when they were growing up. And I said, oh, yeah, rightio, okay, yeah, that's me. And so a lot of people were asking me to do something. to bring, to have a gathering. And
Mhm.
Muglin were just, it was 2014, we were
Okay.
still working project to project. We just moved in, oh, no, we hadn't moved into Carriage Works yet, because I went in the beginning of January, I went in January 2014, February, and we moved into Carriage Works later that year. And so everyone kept asking me to do something, and I said, well, how about a festival? And they said, oh, like the Festival of Fisheries. And I said, oh, no, we're not going to bob for apples and chase greasy pigs or, you know, throw broomsticks. What about a cultural arts festival? And they didn't understand what I was talking about. So I sat down on one of the benches overlooking the Nunu, and which, may I add, is the oldest man-made structure in the world. It's older than the pyramids. It was a gathering place for 9 nations, and yes, Colin, yours was one of them. The Gomeroi, the Alii, the Walwan, the Nimba, the Murrawari, the Barrambinja, the Kuma, the Barkanji, and there's one more, Kulin. And so I wrote up applications down there and to Festivals Australia, and I was successful. Muglin was successful.
That's right.
And so we did the first one in 2015. We didn't get money for 2016, but we had a little bit of money to go back and just keep that relationship with the community and yarn. And I was advocating for Outback Arts. Sorry?
It's an annual event. It's an annual event.
And we've done 5, but the last one was I'm not counting it as the 5th. The 5th one will be next year. This one this year was being live, and Troy Russell was leading this year, as I was still overseas doing my on Turtle Island, Canada, doing my finishing up my fellowship at Talking Stick Festival with Margot Kane.
How did that? So that's in response to COVID-19, yeah?
Yeah.
Being live?
So being live. So if I can indulge you in another little written story here. COVID, when I came back on the 3rd of March, COVID-19 was lurking in the wings with no restriction. So we were still going about with artist contracts, and organisational partnerships were in full swing. Suddenly, COVID-19 took centre stage around the world, with restrictions being introduced and enforced in mid-March. Didn't feel that restrictions would affect us for the festival in Bree, because it's only a small town and we have less than 500 audience. So we kept doing what we do and planning, but we're keeping a close eye on any breaking news. But the restrictions just kept changing rapidly, Bruz, in the country. We began having concerns for our milestone event of 5 years and the effects this would have on the small remote community with a large population of First Peoples. We were at Muglin, we were really worried for our elders, who I said are our living libraries. And they suffer diabetes, dialysis, cancer, respiratory issues. And we didn't want to bring our artists from the city out. And we have a lot of families who are from Bree originally, and so they're avid festival followers. They come every year, and because they have that relationship to country. So we agreed. That the community was the priority, and as we didn't want to bring this pandemic to Brewarrina.
That's right. It's a duty of care, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, duty of care. It's a big responsibility. And we were feeling real no good, and, black fellas, we go, there was no good medicine in our heart at that time, we were really feeling down. And we started to discuss the importance of staying connected and creative during this abhorrent time. So at the same time, We got a solid managing director, Ali Murphy Oates, Wawa woman.
That's great. Yeah.
Nyampa Wawa woman. She said, well, all our mobs on Facebook, why don't we do a thing on Facebook? Why don't we have some performances on Facebook Live?
That's sort of just, we are going to move on to Muggle Live. I just wanted to say,
talk about
we wanted, but also we have a next slide, and I think it's a really beautiful slide.
So that's my mum, everybody.
How was Aunty Lily Shearer involved with the festival there, and over the last few years?
Yeah, okay. So Mum is one of our elders. We have a circle of elders at Muglin that we consult with and talk to. And Mum's been an avid supporter of Biomis Nunu Festival. She houses us artists. She cooks for us. Monk will contest to that. She makes Monk special jelly and ice cream.
What?
Yeah, she just really really supports us in everything. It actually the festival actually inspired Mum to make the short film Brandback.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, in my preparations for the festival. And then she went on to have an acting debut in Nan and a Whole Lot of Trouble. And she loved it. She just absolutely loved it. You know, but then again, Mum was a model back in her days too, up at Hebel on the other side of Gadooga. My mum's from Gadooga, the most boringest town in Australia, but we love it. And she used to do a lot of modelling for Orbel, so she likes, being active. She doesn't like the limelight a lot, but she likes to get active and have a little play around. She's a Muggle.
Deadly.
And this year,
such a beautiful photo.
Oh well, this year, can I tell a story about the photo? Retta Ann Ferguson, who descends from the great William Ferguson, her grandfather.
Yes.
She's our cook every year because our ancestors shared a feast of fish when they gathered at what I call the Nunu our landscape parliament, because all our 9 nations met there and they arranged marriages, they celebrated births, they celebrated deaths, they talked about the land and how to look after it, and they exchanged and bartered, and they shared in a feast of fish. So we share in a feast of fish at the festival. And Retta Ann Ferguson cooks it every year. So this year, Retta did a little cooking segment of yellow belly, that's our yellow belly, or perch, and salad. And my mum lives across the road from Retta. I know, I make my mouth water.
You're making me hungry. And that's continuing culture.
Hey.
That's practicing continuing culture. I love that.
Yeah. And Mum only lives across the road. So when Retta finished cooking, she took a plate over to Mum and took a photo for us.
Oh, deadly.
And Mum loves her yellow belly. She'll tell you she's got none. She'll tell you she's got none, but she got about 5 or 6 in the freezer.
Hey. Yeah, I know how they go.
Yes. Aunty Noon was the same. God rest her soul.
Bless.
So yeah, we've had. I suppose what the festival. Oh, sorry, Cole.
No, you're right. You're right, Will.
What the festival has done over the last since 2015 is built confidence in our people to share stories, to participate in workshops. You know, we do everything from circus, dance, hip hop. What do you call that? Animation, film animation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, brilliant.
Have I missed out on anything, Monk? Anyway, we do everything. Singing.
Yeah, deadly.
Yeah. And
my next question.
All of the above.
All of the above. That's it. I love it. I love that broad scope.
we even
inclusive.
we even did puppetry in our first year with, dear God rest her soul, Aunty Chris from the Yarramundi kids. You know.
Oh yes, bless Aunty Chris.
All those
Beautiful
fax
job.
officers. All those fax officers in Walgett, Lightning Ridge, Bree, Burke, Aunty Chris trained them, and they all bought a set of puppets each. So we asked Fax and Bree, could we have the puppets? And the kids started giving them names and, you know, how old they were, and, you know, started asking the puppets started asking people around town what they liked about Bree, what they didn't like about Bree, how we could improve it, and then did a little voiceover of those people they interviewed with the puppets, and they chose the puppets to suit the people they interviewed. So it was great. It was so much fun.
The puppets look like the people.
Yeah.
My next question.
And people are just developing more skills now too. So.
Oh yeah, it's all about sharing a skill base, isn't it? An upskilling community.
Growing the ecology.
Love it.
Growing the ecology.
That brings me to the next slide and the next question, Lil. Mughal Live. I suppose it's obviously in response to COVID.
It absolutely.
Yeah, and could you tell us about that? Could you tell us about how that turnaround? Like for me, seeing that online on socials, Facebook, that just popped out of nowhere really quickly. So I commend Mughalen for doing something and responding very quickly to that, and for the artists in New South Wales or anywhere. I mean, you know, New South Wales. Could you tell me about how that got to be out there so quick? Because it's amazing.
Well, like I said, when COVID-19 took centre stage, I think it was around the second or third week of March, and we were feeling no good, and then Ali Murphy-Yates came up with this brilliant idea, and we tossed around what to call it, and then agreed on Mughal Live. And so Mughalen supported Ali's creation of Mughal Live. It's a pilot program that commenced on the 23rd of March, sorry.
Yeah.
From Mughlan's Facebook page. It's a platform that brings the best of the black arts onto a device near you. So, I mean,
yeah.
It was to keep our communities connected, yes, and to keep our artists creative. So
that's good.
Yeah, and with everything being cancelled left, right, and centre, my gosh, it was. And yeah, we reacted, and then when we got through that grief of reacting, this was our response.
Brilliant.
You know, as a collective, we were grieving together, and this is the response that came from that sadness and grief and feeling no good. This was our good medicine, Mughal Live. And
so the one we have on the one we have there on the slide there is almost like a month ago, and that was Aunty Marlene Cummins and her son Leroy.
Oh, absolutely. That was what history. Oh my gosh. I mean,
definitely.
You know, Aunty Marlu's a blues singer, a saxophonist, an activist, a dancer, a visual artist, a painter. Yeah, well, I said that, duh. You know, she's got this intense knowledge of blackfellow history and music in this country. And Leroy's, and they both played with the greats, you know. And you know, we realised too, I did some research for this, and you know, we got an overwhelming response with Mughal Live from local, national and global audiences. For example, Daz and Jax Compton, for their Mughal Live family dance party, had over hey, what's the 1.9K? What's the K? How do you read that? Anyway, they had 1.9K. So, go, Monk?
1,000.
Yeah, 1,000.
1,000. Okay, I thought so. Like in the dollars,
Right.
you know. And then then we had in the kitchen with Calico Catering. They had around 995 views.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it was amazing, the reach and the following we've been getting since doing Mughal Live for a company that only does real live events, not virtually live events.
Yeah.
So it took us out of our comfort zone. I'm still out of my comfort zone, well and truly, and thank God Troy Russell was working with us and Ali, technical geniuses, and the skills that they've developed through the mistakes and the learnings of
that's it.
being in this virtual reality. That's what I call it.
I was saying to someone the last few weeks, we live in the digital world, yeah. But I think COVID has made us really explore the possibilities, the real possibilities of the digital age. You know, not to think it's going to end up like Blade Runner or something like that, but you know, but it's very impressive. How do the viewers get in contact or want to put their hand up to get involved with Mughal Live or approach Mughal to run a segment or a session?
Well, unfortunately, we had a limited budget to do this. We look at Mughal Live as our pilot program. It was a response and pilot, and that's coming to the end. That's coming to the end this Friday.
Fair enough.
So we have Joe Clancy on tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow evening we have Mitch Tambo in line with his releasing his new single to finish up. He'll finish up Mughal Live, but we are looking at funding application to Create New South Wales. What a coincidence! That's coming up, closes next week, to continue that. And we've been discussing. We haven't made any decisions, but we've been discussing how do we support the artists within Mughal that we have a long, strong relationship with. You know, you know, we might have an artist on every week or every second week for a month when we launch the new Mughal Live. But it'll be strengthening and deepening those relationships with our artists. So it gives them more of a steady income as well.
Yeah, that's
so
brilliant.
Trying to look after everybody's needs in this time of COVID, because you know Mughlan's doing all right. We're a new 4-year funder. We've been successful for the last 4 years on Australia Council 4-year funding, leading all, and we've been successful for 2021 to 2024 too. So we're okay. But what about our artists? What about our community? That's our family there, Joe.
The next slide, or the next question, sorry, is sort of reflecting about what we were talking about for right at the start of the conversation with you, Lil, about ownership and how do we drill down more about that ownership for First Peoples as artists, and again, how does that intertwine with you know, the baby that you have, which is Muglin.
Yeah. I always say we, Lisa Marie, myself and Fred co-parented Muglin.
Yeah.
So yeah. And can I just say, everybody who's watching or listening, that's not rouge on my face in this snap. This is taken by Michelle Blakeney at the Gundi Keeping Place in Lightning Ridge with Tommy Barker, and that is our ochre from our country. So I don't need rouge, I just need ochre or kopai. So ownership to Muglin and myself is about giving voice and leadership to our storytellers, including ourselves as storytellers, elders and knowledge keepers who share their stories and practices. It's about determining our own futures, our sovereign rights as First Peoples of this great Southland, giving voice also to what sustains us as human beings, to us all as human beings, Mother Earth and Father Sky. It's about walking the talk, deep listening, facilitating a creative process as a collective where each and every person has a leadership role. No one director, but all equal creatives, sharing, interrogating and exploring stories on the floor together, having those difficult yarns through rigorous discussions to enable accepting our different nations and arts practices. For example, our women's work of Broken Glass with Blacktown Arts for Sydney Festival 2018.
Yes.
Broken Glass was a collaborative performance and installation work by Muglin Performing Arts, and it was on rituals of death and mourning of First Nations communities of New South Wales and that little border of Victoria, because remember, all these 1901 borders cuts our people in two.
That's right.
So, you know, we explored topics through the perspective of and performed by First Nation women, you know, Dr. Lisa Marie Shearer and Biripai, Andrea James, Yorta Yorta Kurnai woman, Aroa Groves, Walwyn Gummeroi woman, Katie Leslie, Gummeroi Manandangi, and Brenda Gifford, Ewan woman. You know, the work, and Bronwyn Spirim was part of that too, with sharing a Gomeroi language song with us. You know, the work was shared with the public at St Bartholomew's Church and Cemetery on Darug Country, Prospect, and, you know, greatly supported by Create New South Wales, Blacktown City Council, Australia Council for the Arts, the Crown Resort Foundation, and Joseph Medcalf Funeral Services. So my partner instigated this thought as a funeral director, and so we were guided by his stories. And I suppose that, you know, I won't go into all the detail, but some of our practices of respect, self-determination, communication, consultation and consent, because I always thought that the mudcaps were, for our people, were a sacred thing, but they weren't. They were a secular practice. So if you, for example, if you and I were married, Colin, and you passed away, then the women from your family would make this, cut my hair, put a net on, make this mud clay mourning cap, and I'd have to do all my duties and carry on until it cracked, and then my mourning period was over. So, you know, there was one auntie after the show, she came up to me, she's from Bree, but she lives in Mount Druitt, and she said, "Oh, my Lil, you took me back to my childhood looking at all those, looking at the mud caps, and, you know, I could see all the old people." So it's also about interpretation, cultural integrity and authenticity, secrecy and confidentiality, so we didn't do anything that was sacred in public, attributions, what it means to benefit share, and continuing culture.
My last question, Lily, to you is just quickly before we move on to Monk, is what you were just sort of saying then too, integrity, and then the question is sacred integrity, or how do we make integrity sacred? Could you? That's my sort of last question to you.
This one I've got no notes for. I suppose it's about that interrogation when you're making the work and talking to the old fellows. You know, when we were making Broken Glass, I actually had to go home for a funeral in the middle of the first development. So I had the opportunity to talk to, you know, my elders out at Wilmaringle and, you know, have a chat with those women, particularly Aunty Josie and Aunty Vera Bino, Sister Rubes. So it's really important, and it's really important to finesse and talk through and have those rigorous conversation and debates. Sometimes they get to debate, you know how hot-headed blackfellas are. We have those big debates. We have to walk away from each other and take a breath, and we come back and we just talk about the process and what it means to put certain things on stage or off stage, or what our intention of the work is. So exploring that really deeply. And and I love that. I love that interdisciplinary devised or made work. I mean, I love text too and scripts, don't get me wrong. But there's something deeper when there's a collective rather than hearing one voice from a script writer. There's something, there's magic. There's magic that can happen in your physical self, in your emotional self, in your intellectual self, and in your spiritual self. So your whole well-being.
They all align.
Yeah, it's the whole well-being, you know, lifted. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, Lily, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Colin.
Thanks. Thank you so much. You shared so much of who you are as an artist and what Mugalin is doing and what the history of Mugalin. And, you know, please stick around because we're going to open it up to questions after, of course.
No problemo.
Our next guest is Munkimuk Ross. Yama Mark, how are you, brother?
Yeah, good, brother. That'll be nakinat in my lingo.
Nah, is that it?
Yeah, more like, think of like kinat.
Kinat.
So, and put a na at the end of it. Nakinat.
Nakinat. Mark, you've been performing and producing, collaborating with some of the music industry's most talented and well-known musicians. Equally astonishing is your commitment to working with emerging musicians and youth. I'd like to start off with the question that we just sort of met up last week in preparation for the webinar today, and it was when did you realize you were an artist, and was it mob saying back to you, oh, you're an artist now, or was that at the same time?
First of all, I just want to acknowledge elders and people that have gone before me, and thank you, Lily, as well, for your deadly yarn there. Entertainment Plus by Lily Shearer. And also I'd like to acknowledge that I'm on Arandarak land here by the Georges River. And hey, what was the question again? Hey, when did I think I was an artist?
Yeah. Sorry for not allowing you to acknowledge that.
No, that's all good. That's all good, brother. And of course, also I'm from the Jadwa Jali Nation down there in Western Victoria, the Grampian Mountain, in the beautiful Grampian Mountains.
Oh, unreal. I've never been down there, brother. I need to go.
got the what would you call it? The most concentrated amount of rock art in the southern part of this country,
Wow.
all in those mountain
The
areas.
Grampians. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
But anyway, let's
question,
go back to being
the
an
question
artist. Yeah.
was, when did you consider yourself an artist, or when did Mob say you're an artist,
Hey,
or
I'll go back to the I'm gonna say that hey, my parents told or my mum told me that I was an artist. When was that? That was when I started doing breakdancing. So around 1982, I seen breaking
oh
on
yeah,
the Malcolm McLaren's Buffalo Girls song, which
oh
is
yeah,
then when I started getting into like doing breaking back 82, 83. But by 84, I was like, hey, I started jigging school and going to Circular Quay and busking.
hmm
So with that, and then I'd bring home, mate, I'd be bringing home $100 a day. And then my parents would go, mate, don't worry about going to school.
yeah,
So there you go. That's like they go, hey, you go grab your cardboard or your lino and get down to the Circular Quay and do your thing, because
wow,
you're basically earning more than you're bringing home, putting food on the table. So it's like, so is that a authentic? Is that authenticating me as an artist? Like doing that, actually earning money from spinning around on my back and my head. That's probably why I got no hair anymore. After 30 or 30 so years, or nearly 40 years of that.
yeah.
But yeah, so is that, is that authenticating that I'm an artist, or, then I was getting into the graph scene and started doing the music stuff. I
Yeah.
think it's just like but I think that did authenticate me got me into that was my first practice as an artist.
hmm
Was going down Circular Quay every morning and or every day, and spinning around and doing breakdancing shows
Could you
as a
remind me again of
young kid.
could you remind me again of like, and it's sort of like what Lily was saying before, about how things are interconnected. And you were saying to me last week
By the way, when we met last week, we did have social distancing going on. Anyway, keep going.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We met on the phone. That's right. I rang you up, and then we're tagging each other actually because I kept missing and I kept missing you. You were saying to me there's the lifestyle of hip hop, which is like the dancing, and then but also the music.
This day and age,
the
it's all
clothing,
separated.
It's all separated. But back in the day, it was the whole thing,
Yeah. So I think like what resonates with hip hop culture with our mob is also that we're an oral history. Where our people have been telling stories for 100,000 years or so, and passing down stories through song. And as being songwriters and passing, and I think that resonates with our mob as well, and has since and if you look at hip hop culture, blackfellas have been at the forefront in every city, in every part of hip hop culture in this country. So you go back to the people that aren't celebrated as pioneers and things like that. And there's even from the graph scene, the first person to ever do like a graph piece was a black fella that
Yes.
Same with breaking goes back to like Black Connection being one of the first breakdancing crews from Redfern. And also, getting into the music and things like that. It's always been blackfellas at the forefront. Even from the graph scene to the break into and even now dominating the music side of it.
Yeah.
But with that said, back in the 80s, it was more that you had to be across all of those elements.
Yes.
Where now it's separate.
To be legitimate.
Now these days you're either a breakdancer or you're a graph writer, or you're a MC or a DJ or something like that, and all the scenes are very separate. Where back in the 80s, you had to be across them all, or you're a laughable offence.
My next question is about your beautiful maternal grandmother's language,
Yeah.
which is how many, before it sort of become very more known to put language into freestyle or to rap. I mean, there's another sort of extension of that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you about, and we talked about it last week, when was it that you put your grandmother's language, or your language initially, it's your language, into your songs?
Which probably went from me getting into a bit of trouble back in the thing. So obviously not going to school because, mate, my parents telling me not go to school. Now when I went to school in year 10 when they told me to, mate, when I basically told them I want to go to school, mate, and learn something. Which from there, I went outside that. So obviously my schooling wasn't that good, and I wanted to get into doing rapping and stuff like that. So I go to the library and all my mates. Well, I was getting in trouble, and after getting in trouble with the cops a few times, that's more of like, oh, mate, I'd rather hang out at the library and learn stuff about my culture and learn stuff about, well, just learn a vocabulary and learn big words and stuff like that. So at the library, you got free reign to learn anything. You can pick up any book in the whole library and read it. Yeah, so I love that. I got into doing that, and that there was a couple of books there that I always used to go back to. And they were ones that had like language stuff in them. And then it was like, and knowing a a bit of lingo through family, it's like, also with that, then I'm putting it into song and into the hip hop stuff that I was like starting to do, just seemed natural. It was like a natural progression. But then when I started like touring around the country and doing stuff, and everywhere I'd go, people would go, "Oh man, can you do that lingo rap?" Which would, so even going up into Arnhem Land and places like that, back in the in the 90s, everywhere I go, people be following around. So these days we've got Baker Boy doing like fantastic things all around, like international superstar. I remember his uncles following me around going, "Hey, Monk, show us some of that lingo rap." Which then showed their mob that you could do incorporate it, and you don't have to do it in English, because realistically they used to go, "Oh, can you do that lingo Tupac?"
The lingo like Tupac, right? Yeah.
So they didn't even call it rapping. They call it, "Oh, can you do that lingo Tupac you do?" Okay, yeah, no worries. But then, but them guys are like Baker Boy's uncles, and so they started doing their own like raps in lingo, which now, as the next generation of kids that do it, you know what I mean? Are powering along, and then becoming international superstars. So that warms your heart really to see our mob taking that on board, and then you got all the other First Nations hip hop artists now throwing lingo into their throwing lingo into their tracks. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing.
My next question is about the notorious Southwest Syndicate. Southwest Syndicate was reformed. Was it last year?
Oh yeah, in the last couple of years now. Realistically, I got sick of being a
Southwest Syndicate, brother.
I read the Red Bull article the other day. That was on the Red Bull site, that said that put me, which finally got the history right. Before Southwest Syndicate, I was a solo artist in the mid 80s. Yes. Doing stuff which they acknowledged, which I thought was like quite interesting, that they acknowledged me and Sound Unlimited posse as being like the first couple of people that were doing like hip hop here in Australia, which but then I got sick of like doing stuff on my own, so I just thought I'd bring all my mates along.
Yeah.
So me and Dax always used to like write and do be co-offenders in rhyming. So we we just get everyone else, from young brother, young Shannon, he's about 10 years younger than us. So Yeah,
Yeah.
he was, so bringing him along as well for the ride,
Yeah.
and but with that said, there was another 30 or so people that were in that group that were,
Oh, that's
you know what I mean,
massive.
which was massive at the time. But then, you know what I mean, then we, you know what I mean, obviously went our own ways and done our own solo stuff. But then it was like a couple of years ago that it's like, oh, we should really bring this whole thing back, because we got like a bit of a new, well, they come with me with a new idea. I was doing stuff overseas, so I wasn't really even part of the regenesis of it or the reformation. They were just like, man, you want to be part of it? I go, well, mate, as long as I don't have to do too much, because back in the first incarnation, I was basically doing
Yeah.
everything in the way of production
Right.
and doing all the music and doing this and doing that, writing half the people's verses as well. Like
Hey,
ghostwriting for people, and then this, I'm like, man, as long as I don't have to do anything but sit here and write some rhymes, man, I'd be more than happy to join in
So,
and be part of it. But with that said, it's
yeah.
not just the old fellas, the old crew members. It's now all these younger people that are now in the, you know, we've got Izzy and Jay Point and Mick Owen and Zia Darla, and Ebony's back as well. So, and that's a very important thing, is to also have the female participation, because that's something that is very lacking in the hip hop, and always has been. And we've always, personally, I've always been about giving the females a platform to be able, because there just isn't, you know, and it's a bit of a dick fest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pardon my language.
Yeah.
in
Obviously
the way,
to one side. Yeah, and the history of that too. Yeah, that's fantastic, Russ. And like you were saying, like, I suppose
they're taking over now.
Everyone else is skilled up too. You know, skilled up with new technology and the digital age that we live in.
And young Tristan Field is he works at the Opera House and was a trainee at Bangara. He's doing all the music. Yeah, I mean, so he does all the music and just sends it off to everyone. And same with Leo Tannoy, Black President.
Yeah, that's right.
They just collaborate together and do all the music, and hey, all I have to do is write some rhymes. First time in my life I had to do something like that. I'm pretty happy with that.
That's deadly. It's all about collaborations, isn't it? It's all about collaborations. That sort of brings me to the next slide and to my next question. Like, you were describing to me last week about your career, and if you see it as a career, that you're like a bus driver. Could you describe to me remind me how you came up with that analogy, which I thought was absolutely deadly, actually?
Well, that's the way you kind of look at it. It's like, I do my thing, which I drive my bus, and whoever jumps on board, because I mean, it's not just I mean, people know that I do hip hop as a hip thing, but if you go back into the stuff that I've produced as a producer, it goes all the way from opera to death metal and folk and everything in country and everything in between. Yeah, I mean, that I've produced as a producer. To me, the job as a producer is to make the artist sound as good as possible. That's your job. That's the job description at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, so it's like, it doesn't matter what the genre is. But with that said, I mean, I'm all about passing on knowledge, and always have been from the very beginning. Like, whatever I can learn, and I can pass it on to someone, and that's going to help them. And that's what it's all about, really. Yeah, I mean, and it goes all the way back to even, say, like Gadigal / Koori radio scene, that back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when we starting off doing the Young Black and Deadly program, which I mean was more of that whole thing of mentoring young kids and to get into music. And I mean, I think even in those first sessions that we did with the young Casey Donovans and et cetera, that came through doing doing that sort of stuff, and then just yesterday on radio, I interviewed young Lauren. Oh, she's not young anymore. She's in her mid or late 20s. Lauren Ryan from Tamworth, who's working at ABC as a reporter, and also still doing her music and all that sort of stuff. And she's absolutely on fire. So it's good to that as a just as someone that knows, I mean, that through my, what would you call it, trials and errors and et cetera, being able to just pass knowledge on to people. Because you're not always doing things right.
That's brilliant.
That's how you learn. You learn something every day. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Very true. Just wanted to talk to you about getting out of Australia and working in Thailand and the Philippines, and then producing music over there. Could you share with us about getting out? I suppose I would imagine that's getting out of your comfort zone, isn't it?
Yeah.
But also collaborating with, wonderful cultures overseas.
Well, that's the other thing. Well, the first thing is even getting that opportunity. Yeah, I mean, they got their own producers and people that can do anything that I do, probably even better. It's more of having, like, getting, when you getting those opportunities to go overseas, is then having, it goes back to being a black fella, is that you are is having respect and learning some of the lingo, learning the cultures that have been, and things that have been passed down for thousands of years in their cultures. You know, and just like wanting to know about that stuff. And I think that's like an integral part of then, because most people that go to these countries that to produce stuff are just like, oh, we've got our own producers, we don't really need you. I suppose being you have to be a half likable person, you know what I mean? Or
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so and also
it's like a cultural exchange, though. It's a cultural exchange, that experience.
Yeah, but with that said, I mean,
yes,
is then doing it not for the reason of being all about yourself. It's more of what I do it for is just to help people out. So there's a young fellow that I've done a little bit of a partnership with, like around 2010-ish, Aralik, who wanted to get into doing the rap battle stuff, and we helped him make a YouTube channel, and we put that channel together, and just like short, like just in a few words, that I'm just looking now on the screen, and it says, hey, 2-point-something billion views.
Yeah, right.
Channel views. Yeah, I mean, which now last year we had a festival, the Flip Top Festival, amazing. Which means that from the advertising revenue because that's a lot, 2 billion is a lot of like views, which then advertisers jump on board and all that sort of stuff. So we can run a festival that brings people from all over the Philippines and like into a space where people can watch all the artists that are around the country, but just having, I mean, starting like kicking that sort of stuff off with people, and then like going to Thailand, same thing, and working with a guy there that's a legend, who's, I mean, had like multiple #1 albums during the 90s, and just working with him, and him getting me to work with some artists that aren't specifically in the genre of hip hop either. You know what I mean? Working with them fellas over in Thailand, it's more, there's a female indie rock punk band that I've been working with for the last 5 or 6 years that are like headlining South by Southwest in America like last year.
Right. Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah, I mean, but with that said, because I'm there, I'm going hunting for the hip hop artists, and it's like a magnet, I think. You know what I mean? So all the young hip hop artists are there. So I think, what can I do for them? And I'll put on a night where put on a night at one of the local clubs, and we'll get all the young hip hop artists up and like do stuff. And then now they're all moving on and doing their own nights.
That's brilliant.
So it's just a matter of like evolving. Doesn't matter where you are. Evolving like what's going on. And I was lucky, I was fortunate enough also when I went to the Philippines to work with some producers over there that just gave me artists that were already successful. So it's like the first song that I worked on, you know what I mean, sold a few million records, like like 3 million records, and and they got like hundreds of thousands or millions of views and things like that. So it's like that's just luck of the draw, I say, in that.
Yeah.
Also
Brilliant.
I did just like quietly get thrown out of Thailand for I did get a ban. I did have a lifetime ban, but
What?
but it turned into a 1-year ban.
Oh,
Which,
okay.
because it's illegal to criticize the monarchy or the military
right.
there. And we put
Oh,
together a song with all the because there'd been no elections for 5 or 6 years, and the young guys were all like, "Man, we're sick of this." So basically, they made a song saying, "Screw the military, screw the monarchy. We want
yeah.
like thing to have a say in our elections." And it was a big thing. It was on the front page news anyway. I got escorted out of the country at gunpoint, and with that said, what happened with that was that there was an election. This song that we put together caused an election, which shows it's not often that you do art that can like move a. So the whole thing after, I think it got like sold like 10 million records in a week or something, and was Spotify and stuff like that had like 60 or 70 million views in a week. That's why the government was straight onto it, going, "Mate, what's going on here?"
Amazing.
And even people, when I come back to Australia, people here, Thais that I know here, were like, "Whoa, man, that's the most amazing thing that has happened in the last decade."
That's
that song has caused thing. And and I went to the Australian Embassy. They said, "Mate, you knew." They were like, the Australian Embassy were like, "You knew what you got yourself into. We can't help you."
Yeah, right. Okay.
They go, "You're on your own."
That would
basically.
be I would imagine them saying that too, actually.
You knew, well, you know the laws, you know what you're getting yourself into, so hey, you'll just have to deal with it. But with that said, all of the arts industry in Thailand, which is a huge industry, including the actors and musicians and visual artists and theatre performers and etc., all banded together to fight for my being reinstated to allowed to come back.
That's right.
They had a case, a court thing there, and so they put the ban from a lifetime ban to a 1-year ban, and I went back there for a week at the end of last year. I wasn't going to push my luck. I only went in for a week. Didn't want to push my luck, and put on a couple of nights. And as you see with the slide there, with some of the young kids that are upcoming, we always get new upcoming kids, and just getting them fellas and putting on a night for all the young kids to play it.
Brilliant. Coming back home, what's happening recently with you, brother? You're at Koori Radio again.
Yeah, just coming back.
Is that sort of in response to COVID? Is that
yes?
Yep. Okay.
Yes. So with the COVID thing, in Koori Radio, there was a secondee at Gadigal that got COVID, which shut down the station. And with that said, Tim, who's on the next one of these Create New South Wales webinars, you can probably ask him about that. But so Koori Radio, I kind of like connected back up, and now I'm doing radio live from home, which I've been doing for a couple of months now. So I set up right here. This is where I set up every afternoon and go hit the button to stream straight to the station. But with that said, the whole reason why I've done it was more because of, I'm thinking, how do we simplify information? Because I'm getting confused with all this information that's going on about this COVID stuff. So how do I simplify it for the mob? And I just see it as a part of my duty. You know what I mean? To that's probably what I do. I go all right at it. You know what I mean? So it's like more like, And so it's more of like, how do we like give out this information? And at the time, I mean, Lola's on air now, and Sarah Khan are both on air now, but they weren't on air because radio was shut down and no one could go into the station.
Right.
So I was like basically the presenter that was on air for the first month anyway. Where now they're all doing it from home.
That's great. That's the digital age, isn't it? That's what we were talking about before, the digital age. We live in it, but I suppose within COVID, we're forced to explore how to really push out the boundaries and live in the digital age.
Yeah, I look at it as a little bit of a duty as well. Yeah, I mean, it's like I've got other things I could be. There's other things that I could be doing, and other things that I'm putting aside to like do the radio.
Yeah, brilliant, brother.
But with that said, I'm just like, no, I think it's like something that I'm starting to enjoy it a lot more now as well. At first, I looked at it as man, I've got to do this to like get the information out to people. But now I'm kind of enjoying it and like doing the show and having some fun with it as well. Get my young niece to come in and tell people about animal facts.
That's right. You were telling me that. That's great.
So I'm having a bit more fun with it now that it's but it's still important to be able to give I still give the news as it comes in of what you're allowed to do and try to simplify it as well. As it changes every day, simplify it and say this is what you can do now, and this, if you want to get these are the rules at Centrelink for what you need to do, and just kind of just like simplify stuff down, because the politicians talk political jargon, which is they try to talk that. Just the way that they talk confuses you.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And
so just try to simplify that for mob, and so to me that's probably the important thing at this. Because I'm not going overseas at any time soon. I was planning. I was planning to like to go and do some things, but that's not happening at any time soon. So I thought, I might as well we'll keep doing this, doing the crew radio stuff until then.
Koori Radio's Gadigal Information Service itself is a cultural institution, as we all know, and has provided that for mob, has provided that for community through its up and down history, but it still remains. So, Mark, that's amazing that you're still part of that, and being a part of providing a service to community,
Yeah, that's the way I see it as well. It's more of and it's like I say, I got like other things that and I'm all right. I'm going all right. I did have like some health problems a couple of years ago, which I'm like still, kind of trying to sort out. Mate, your body gives up on you after a while, but and it's more. It probably keeps me going as a human being as well to like have all that. It keeps me excited and motivated to like do stuff.
That's it, brother. That's great. It's great to see that and great to hear that from you. We're now into the part of the webinar where I'm going to open it up to.
What do we got going on now?
to the panel questions. I'm just going to invite the people there to write down. I'll have a look at the chat as well to see if there's anyone that would like to talk and ask a question of Lily or to Mark.
I just want to just say thank you to Lily for the being able, like this Mughal and the Mughal live stuff, and the things that in these times where Mughal could have just been stagnant and not doing anything, being at the forefront of the arts and keeping things going for people. Well done, Lil.
Big shout out to Ali Murphy Oates. I think that generation are the digital generation, And yeah, well, and I don't know about you fellas, but I don't want to be as a person getting older. I don't want to be stuck in this virtual reality. I want to touch people and feel people and hug my grandchildren, and I've got 9, nearly 10 grandchildren now. I hate not seeing them. How and where did Mark and Lily meet? Oh,
That's a good question, because we come across each other probably like many years ago.
Granville.
I'd say. Oh yeah, but then like probably as even younger. But then but probably in the art side of things, probably when we were doing some show like Granville.
I think Southwest Syndicate were doing a NAIDOC celebration at Granville Youth Centre, and Brother Black would have been. Brother Black, I want to say, was about 11, 12, maybe 13 years old.
Yeah. See, what we used to do
is... That's when I first met you.
Yeah. We used to think, oh, mate, this young kid's hungry, mate. He knows all the words. He knows them better than us. Let's bring him along.
Yeah. Then I got to work with you at Corrie Radio.
Yeah.
I got to work with you when I was at Gadigal at Corrie Radio. And then we've developed this really great relationship. And Monk's always at home in Bree for the festival now. If I don't bring Monk and Dobby, I'm the worst person in the world. Yeah. And my mum, straight up, they'll tell you.
Yeah, that's true.
But I was talking to Cole earlier, and I just love the way, like, an old schoolmate of mine from Brewarrina got in touch with me. Her son's a hip-hop artist. He was doing a film clip for his new song down here in Sydney, and he wanted him to be able to meet somebody. So I reached out to Monk, and I said, oh, Monk, young artist, 2K Triller from Nagali Shore from Dubbo. He's coming down to shoot his film clip and wonders if you got any time to catch up with you. Anyway, and 2K Triller had never heard of Munkimuk. And so I sent 2K some links and the name. Next day, he was there like this at Monk. Oh, and you did this, this, and this, and how did you get to there? And they just gelled, and Monk just gives. And that's why I think we all get on so well, is we love giving, especially to this next generation. Like,
for sure.
When Ali said she wanted to do Mooga Live, Lisa Marie and I went, yeah, go for it, because we're not technology whizzes. We're not into that realm. And, we've got a question here for Mark or Lily. What is the biggest question that you get asked by artists regarding COVID, and what advice have you offered? Over to you first, brother.
I'm getting like, lots of people like about. Well, the thing is, hey, for people's mental, I think it's more about mental health that I'm getting like more personal stuff in the way of because I've obviously am friends. I don't just like give advice and say get out of my life to people. Like I stay friends with a whole heap of like artists and things like that, and people are like, I'm very, very lucky and blessed that if people aren't feeling that well mentally, that they'll reach out to me and they have a bit of a yarn, and try to give them a bit of a pickup on what they should, of how they can get out of their the predicament that they're in, which is hard for people to reach out and do that. But that's why I say I'm blessed that people are comfortable enough with myself to be able to do that. And that's probably the predominant thing that I've been getting in this COVID is people that are going a bit crazy over there. But my advice would be, my advice is get creative. Use this time to get creative and start writing, write stuff and and I think the other thing is people, because they're, especially if they're alone and they're not socializing with people, is they're having to look at themselves as well and look at their lives and like think of things that they wouldn't normally do when they're out and about having fun with all their friends. So I think that's it. It's like, and the thing is take that self-reflection and look at it as a good thing, not as like don't look at the negatives, look at the positives of what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've had questions from my peers about questioning whether they want to still be in the arts now during this time. It's going to take so much to rebuild, and they don't have the energy for it. And I say, and I can only say, well, you know, that's okay. That's okay. And when you're ready to re-enter, you'll know. You know, the Creator and the ancestors and the land are always giving us signs. You know, we got, and it's more. I don't know. It seems to be more dominant now that everything's slowed down and things are really still. About those little signs, the bird. There's more birds coming. The crow is back here. The crow used to follow me around all the time in Western Sydney and over in Marrickville and sometimes here in Belmore. But he's there every day again now and telling me yarns and looking for a feed. And so what I've been saying to my colleagues and friends is, you'll know when it's time to go and you know when it's time to come back, you know. And, you know, they said, oh, I just want a job packing shelves in Woolworths or Coles. That's where all the jobs are, you know. And I said, it's about survival. And our people have been in this survival mode for 250 years. So this is not new to us, you know. And in the creative industries, you're even more of a survival. We're not in it for the money, that's for sure. You know, we're not on big salaries, like, you know. No, I'm not pinpointing anybody, but, you know, like my brother who works for RMS in an Aboriginal Road Safety in the RMS, you know, or cousins, they're on big money. But we do this because we know it'll make a change. We know it helps people through mental health issues and when times are low. And our facilitators left, I just noticed. Come back, Colin. And so it's really important to support each other and to have those conversations. Ring up, have a yarn. I mean, I was talking to Camilla Boney one Saturday for 3 hours. She rang me from Newcastle. And, yeah, I think it's really important to reach out and have a virtual cup of tea, you know, on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, or whatever tools you've got, you know, or sometimes it's just the phone.
Right, we've got another question here. Yeah, oh wait a sec, I'm just reading the question. I'm turn moderator. Wait, I'm taking Colin's job.
From Uncle Lewis Burns about optimising video and audio for live streaming. Any advice? That's your forte, my brother. Go for it.
Yeah, I think it's these days your phone is probably seems like I've been getting better quality on my phone than I have on. Well, this is the first time that I've used my little laptop thing, and I think I get a better quality on my phone, which with the live streaming thing, and it depends on what are you going to use it for. That would probably be a question first.
Doing 1 hour presentations directly.
Yeah, doing the 1 hour. All right.
And I need really high quality video and audio, but I need to squash it down enough so that it'll go through the, you know.
Right. Exactly. This is what I'll tell you a program to download. Let me just like flick this over and flick it back up. And there's a program called Handbrake.
Oh yeah,
is what it's called. if you put it through Handbrake and optimize it, and it'll squash it down as much as possible.
Yeah,
I reckon
I
that's
have
your
used that.
yeah, and I reckon
You
that's
can't use that live.
yes, you're right about that. That's but I'm thinking live wise.
Well,
But
with Miami's Nono and Mughal Live, we've been using mostly streaming live from Facebook. But you know, like we had Tommy Barker from the Gundi up in the Ridge on doing a woodcarving talk, and he doesn't have Facebook, so he came through Zoom to our Facebook page. So we hooked up through Zoom and did that.
what
Yeah,
was
I
he?
think, you know what I think.
Sorry,
I think on the Facebook. Yeah, I was just going to say the Facebook is probably the worst one, because what they do is they always compress everything. Like anything that goes through Facebook always gets compressed. So even if you send a photo that's a large file through Facebook, it'll always compress and turn into a small file. So I think that's similar with video.
Yeah, I won't use Facebook because only some of the world is on it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you using? What are you using to like stream to? Would be the
I did a performance for the Deep South Didgeridoo Festival last month, and I just used my MacBook and set it up so that they could see me. I tried to get an external camera, wasn't as good as the camera in the Mac, but it was easier to maneuver. And I tried to get external audio, but I could only get the audio at the didgeridoo end and not at my mouth end. So I had to yell. I'm trying to solve all of those problems now.
True.
But I need to get it right because people are booking me to do 1 hour presentations into libraries in the US.
Is it worth you getting getting another mic?
I want to buy. I want to buy the whole kit. Like I'm going to get a camera, the mic. I'm going to get a couple of microphones. I want microphones near my mouth and microphones near the end of the didge, and I'm going to have dancers as well. So
deadly.
I'm really setting it up properly so that I can give a better presentation.
Yeah, that's deadly.
Yeah.
And then I'm just thinking how would you like things? So if you got two mics, you'd probably have to have some sort of mixer that mixes them. Would probably be like just a small little mixer or something.
I won't be solo. I'll have someone helping.
Yeah. I was just going to say there's a couple of deadly little technicians. We worked with a young, I don't know his last name, Unc, but he's from Wellington. His name's Dylan. He helped us with Sue Lucy when she was doing, Dandaloo Sue when she was doing a weaving workshop. He helped because she's like me, not au fait with all the technology stuff. So Dylan, we paid Dylan to help her. And you've also got that deadly little artist there in Dubbo, Isaac Parsons. He's a whiz on video and technical stuff too. Nina Barker's boy.
Who?
Nina Barker's son, Isaac Parsons. God rest his soul, Buddy Parsons' boy.
Well, I'm going to look him up.
Yeah.
That'd be
big. I used to know everyone.
He's over in that new estate area there over the back of West Dubbo.
Okay. Isaac Parsons.
On the zoo side. He'd look out telling you where he live and all.
Also on the doing the live streaming on your MacBook or on your laptop there or whatever you're doing it on, seeing you've got a good camera on it, I'd be like using OBS. That's like a streaming thing. I think it's really a gaming streaming like program.
Play that again.
OBS. Yeah. If you download that and have a play around with that, you might be able to get some good quality, and it streams at a higher quality. That's why I just took me a while.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It
took me a while to remember that one.
Okay, open broadcast
software.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, and that'll give you a clean streaming, it gives you a quality streaming like output to wherever you're sending it.
That sounds
There's
like
a
question.
Yeah, there's a webinar that Create New South Wales did, I think it was last week, with the Google Creative Mob.
I missed it.
Yeah, Google Creative Lab. It's worthwhile having a look at that webinar. A lot of it went over top of my head, but I thought it was really good for me to have a look at, pass on to Ali.
OBS is also free.
For that one.
Yeah, it's also, yeah. Oh, there you go. The webinars are available on the Create New South Wales website. Thank you, Ivana.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about some of the thing I try to get on the free programs to tell people about rather than the stuff that you have to pay for. There's always a free version somewhere.
Yeah, there's always a free version somewhere. Monk knows all about it, or Troy Russell. He's another one that knows where all the free stuff is.
I haven't seen Troy for a long time.
Yeah, no, he's still working with us on and off, Monk.
Tell him I said g'day.
I will.
Haven't seen him.
This might be a good time. I'm back, everyone.
Oh, he's back. Come on.
Technical difficulties. I suppose this is a good time to talk about Creative Koori Digital Initiative. It's been open for almost end of last month, and it closes next week. To you viewers out there, it's up to 10K.
Next Thursday,
open to New South Wales Aboriginal arts and cultural organisations. All that information is available on the Create New South Wales website, with all the guidelines there for you to fill out, and also the other rounds that are currently open now. The one we just talked about, Create Koori Digital Initiative, the Digitise Initiative, Health and Wellbeing Initiative, all from $500 up to 10K. They all close next week, but please have a look. If you're not doing anything this weekend, if you're stuck at home, maybe you are, and not visiting, go and check out those initiatives that might align with what you're doing now, as what Create is putting out there within the different funding rounds, and also the always ongoing small project grants. They're $500 up to 5K, and they close at the end of the financial year for you there. And also, please ring up and get in contact with the blackfellas that are part of the arts and funding development team at Create. That's Tammy Close. She's working behind the scenes here with us this morning. Taji Moore, wonderful Michael Gia, and myself there. We'll leave that up for a little bit if you wanted to copy down the phone numbers there to talk to any of us regarding those initiatives.
2 questions.
Yes, Lily.
Cole? One
Yes.
from me. What's the difference between Creative Koori, what was it? Creative Koori Digital or something, and Digitise?
I suppose the creative. Sorry.
No, go on.
I suppose those two, one's targeted for blackfellas, the other isn't. It's more of an open round.
Okay.
But those, yep.
Yeah, and Uncle Lewis, I don't know if you've seen, but they answered your question about No percentage. We just want to see this, that you're paying the artist. Yeah, right.
No percentage. Yeah, that's it. And what Louis Burns there was saying about running their eye over applications. Yeah, like just those, or any of us in that team there, but those 4 people there, including myself on the screen there, are part of the arts funding and development team. And brother, please write down who you'd like to speak to. Tammy Close is very well versed in these initiatives.
Yeah, go Tammy.
He goes passing the job on.
Michael Gear and myself. So yeah, please.
Yeah, they're offering you a lab session, huh? Just call them.
Yeah. One-on-one is great too, please. This is us reaching out, Create New South Wales staff and that team are reaching out to mob or, that are artists that are currently going through, we're all going through this COVID-19 crisis, and there's initiatives out there to keep your practice going, because as artists, and I'm sure Mark and Lily can attest that, things happen, but we still keep creating. We still keep, and we need to create. It's for our health. It's for our holistic well-being. Well-being, yeah. I'm just wanting to ask too, is there anyone else within that has joined us that would like to ask any questions? I'm just scrolling down through the chat.
Yeah, the audio is fine. I can hear, bro.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to plug. The next 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, there's on the 28th, Create New South Wales is delivering another New South Wales Aboriginal Arts and Cultural Exchange webinar. Webinar 3 will be discussing how New South Wales Aboriginal Arts and Cultural organisations are presenting programs and projects on what we were just talking about, digital platform. It was hosted by Senior Manager Peter White of Aboriginal Strategies and Engagement Partnerships. The guests in 2 weeks' time, starting at the same time as we started this morning, will be Dr. Bronwyn Bancroft, visual artist working across many different forms of media, and the CEO of Gadigal Information Service, Tim Leah. That's in 2 weeks' time. And those topics is the accessibility issues with the internet and the digital space. We'll be talking about that, and how to get advice to plan towards presenting for your Aboriginal Arts Online programming. So please sign up for that. That register there is what I was saying before, is that Create website. So that should be good.
I don't think I'm going to sign up, mate. I'm supposed to be. I'll probably start work by then. It'd be all right if my boss wasn't the one that was doing this.
How'd you get out of your organised time this morning, though? Which is great, brother.
Yes, this is correct. I'm a little bit happy about that. I don't have to go to our daily staff meeting today.
Also, I'd just like to have this opportunity now, just quickly, if Lily or Mark would like to shout out or promote anything that's coming up in the digital space. Lily?
Yeah, we've got our last Moogle Live performances tomorrow on Facebook with the beautiful, wonderful dancer, Joe Clancy, doing a dance workshop, probably I think around 11, or it'll be in the morning. And then in the evening, we're finishing Moogle Live, the pilot program, with Mitch Tambo to release his, in in line with to release his new song on the show at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. So yeah, join us on Facebook, just like Muggleland Performing Arts on Facebook, and tune in. We'll all be there. It's going to be so exciting, and keep your eye out for the next round of Muggle Live. We will be doing another one.
Brilliant. Based on the success of this first pilot.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important for our people. It's so important to have that little bit of financial stability, but it's also great to diversify those skills and engage with our audiences, with our communities. We're all chatting in the box. It's a different way of communicating. I'm missing the touchy, feely, lovey stuff. But I'm a touchy, feely black fella. I can't help that. I've got 9 grandkids. I love cuddling people. But yeah, that's what we've got coming up.
Brilliant. Mark?
I'm just going to say to you, Morbid Create, and everyone else that's even having watching, just keep doing what you're doing. Hey, I'm excited. I'm excited to even just know that people are out there doing things, and like especially brother there doing his gigs and
yes, Lewis, brilliant.
Well, and Ari there as well.
Well, Tim, you beautiful fan. Yeah, well, and Ari, yeah, you got one.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm still driving the bus, right?
That's brilliant.
Thank you so much, Create.
Well, thank you. We've run over time, but you know what? We just kept it going because it was great information, and we enjoyed the sort of relaxed nature of this webinar, the second webinar. So thank you, Lily Shearer, and to Mark Ross, to committing to today's first People's webinar and sharing with us your experiences, your thoughts, and your expertise within your own practice and the collectives that you're both part of. So it's a big maraba ninda. Thank you to the webinar audience for joining us this morning and for your time as well. I hope that the webinar is just as a deadly experience it was for me and for the team to put together and to take away and for us to produce it. Thank you, Tammy Close, Taji Moore, Michael Gear, and of course, Ivana Jotrovic behind the scenes there with us. I'd like to leave you with a quote that I read last week. It was, funnily enough, it was from a white fella by the name of Vincent Lombardi. He was a highly successful professional sports coach in America last century. And the quote really stuck in my head. All those sort of YouTube videos of like that we watch now that we're in COVID and, looking for inspiration. And this hit me really well and hard, I suppose. And the quote is, "The quality of a person's life is in direct proportion of their commitment to excellence." So thank you very much. And to Lily and Mark, thank you. And Yalu, and thanks for being a part of it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See ya.
Big love.